But all the guys that used to hang around and stuff, the other rappers and stuff, they wanted to make records, and I was the kind of guy would support them. You know what I'm saying? I was really behind them, like, yeah, whatever. I'd be the DJ or whatever, I'm just with you. But as far as me, front man, I never thought about any of that. And then my father approaches me with making a record, and then he says, well, think about it. You the one really did the other record that we had, the hit record we had. So I was like, okay, all right. And he scheduled a studio time, and then I was like, okay. Uh, the morning of, and it was a week or 2 weeks later or something like that. The morning of, he said, all right, going to the studio tonight. You ready? So I was like, I'm a kid. I'm like, okay, I ain't did no preparation, nothing, don't have. But I was like, yeah. So that morning I'm sitting on the side of the bed and I see Green Acres coming on. Dun 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 dun. I was like, ah, I like that. Cool. I can use that as an intro. It gave me something to go on. And, if I had to do what I did when I went in the studio before, I just freestyle it. It was simple. So I just had that concept, and I felt like that was all I needed. And so then we went in the studio that night, and we got with the engineer Amos, and we was like, okay, well, what we're gonna do, what have you. So we went into the studio with the engineer Amos, and then uh, I'm trying to focus here, because all right. So we went into the studio with the engineer Amos, and then when we got into the studio, like I said, the same thing. We just, it was like, okay, well, what are we gonna do? What have you? It was like, okay, well, let's break out the drum machine, and I did a beat pattern, hi hat. How the hi hats go. We need a bass line. Well, maybe I should back up a little bit, because one thing that we did have before we went in the studio was an idea what kind of record we wanted to make, because there was a record out at the time. It was a record that had this loud train sound in it, and whenever they put it on, it just was hot. But I don't know who made that record till this day, and it was only a couple copies. You couldn't find it, but anyway, um, so that's where my father, because it was so hot, the DJs wanted, nobody could get it, nobody knew where it came from. So my father was like, yo, let's do something along the lines of a train. And then it was like, okay, and my thing was, okay, I like the bass, so I wanted the bass, and it was like solid as a rock, and on Express. So me and my father, comprised that, and so we had this idea in mind that it was going to be some kind of train type deal. And so when we got to the studio, like I said, the simple part was the beats, and the melodies, because if you play a melody for me, I could just, it was just a vibe, you know what I'm saying? And that came from, like I said, the years of previous, you know, working in my mother's store and working in my father's record store, and just knowing what jam, what grooves. So if you play something for me, I always say the Father bless me uh, with my ears, because I could hear it. You know what I'm saying? If it wasn't right, it wasn't that it wasn't gonna be right, because I know exactly what I want, and I could hear it. So you give me the note first. Let's find the actual pitch that we're gonna get, the certain note that feels right. And I know I was a young kid at the time, but I was just blessed like that. I just but it was training. You dig what I'm saying? That other stuff before, listening to all that music repetitiously, trained me. I didn't know at the time, but it did, and I could just hear it, and I knew what to listen for, and I knew what I wanted, and I go in the studio, and that's how I could pop it out. So an engineer, I needed an engineer that could play. You understand? That knew how to play. I needed talented people. You understand what I'm saying? Because it makes it go much quicker when you have someone that, can just play almost any instrument or do anything, and they do it real quick and they know how to do it. Then it perfects what you're doing. And that's what happened. I go in and, okay, play a bass line. Okay, yeah, I wanted to go like this. I give you the melody, and strings. We find some strings. Okay, we get the strings, and how it goes, and that's how my concept of producing. I was more like a director. I knew exactly what I wanted. Um, and that's how I work with multiple producers, and I made hit records. You see, because the key element was always me, and that I knew, I just knew music like that. But it was because of people before me who made great records that I listened to daily, multiple times a day. You know what I'm saying? So I did get it from somewhere. I got it from other artists, and I mean, I remember, Michael Jackson. You know what I'm saying? Don't stop till you get enough. All that stuff. It was hot back then. When I was a kid. You know what I'm saying? So I learned that stuff, and I didn't know. Like I said, I didn't know at the time, but I learned it pretty well.